When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com.
Good evening, welcome again to Truth and Justice Television. I'm Jennifer OBASEKI and I'm going to be talking to you today about doing business in Africa. As you have seen from the papers, it's all eyes on the continent. Nigeria, South Africa, every country on the continent seems to be up for grabs. But what are the do's and don'ts about doing business in Africa? Do you go where your passion is? Do you go where you have contacts? Do you go where you have your ethnic origins? Or do you go for the profit? Put it this way, you have to go where you're going to make the most profit margin if your whole focus is business, but you've also got to be ethical about it. Is your priority to give back, or is your priority to make a profit? We're going to be looking at all those things this hour on Truth and Justice TV. So let's really start. Where is stable at the moment in Africa? Where is fertile ground? Technically, when you look at the demographics on the continent, each country has its major bonuses. Looking at the spending power of the public, the mass, you then look at your markets and what your potential customers are going to do in the respective country that you are thinking of focusing on. Thinking also about the regulations in the country you're thinking of focusing on. And how easy it will be to grow your business, your brand in that particular country you are thinking of focusing on. Now, we've seen changes in the last 3 years, real serious changes in countries like Ghana that have pulled attraction, not just from within the West African region, but I've said it before on this program that many people I know have moved right from East Africa to base in Ghana, specifically because they see it as a springboard country, a country where once they base, the rest of West Africa is very easy for them to really push their brand or their market or their services into, mainly because of the ECOWAS agreements, the trade agreements that are there. So once you register a company there, because it's pretty easy, because the infrastructure is there to hold up your platform, it then becomes an easy country for you to springboard to. And also, again, it depends on the language you're thinking of working in. There is actually quite a strong francophone base in Ghana. Many people don't seem to realize that. But again, it all depends on your market. So you've got to be very, very careful and do your research. We also look at countries like Nigeria where the numbers just make it automatically attractive. So you think about the 190 million and then think about, gosh, if only a small percentage of those people are able to tap into my brand or into my service, then I should be, walking away with profit and a growing business. But there's a lot of competition and a lot of mistakes to be had. So for example, in Nigeria, you may find that you might not have the same level of infrastructure to help make sure that your business grows. So now we will think about really the primary basics. So first of all, looking and identifying the country that you want to start from. I'm originally from Nigeria and I'm wearing my green today. I had to get it on for you. So that's where my passion and my focus is, not just because I'm from there, but because of the attraction of the demographic the potential market. That's for obviously legal and business consultation services. But also, I am thinking of going into the e-commerce business there, and hopefully we'll be launching there soon. But it's taken me some time. I'm still also studying the market and how to do market penetration work. There are other places. We've seen the peace agreements now between Eritrea and Ethiopia. What that means is that is also going to be a very fertile ground for people to think about doing business. I've had clients that have given up teaching in the UK to do basically food distribution businesses in Ethiopia, and have actually managed to grow their businesses so phenomenally in the last 5 years, to the point where they can't even think about coming back to the UK. And then again, we think about our experiences here in the diaspora, the fact that we have a level of customer service, we have a level of organizational skills, management skills, that even if we transcend to the continent, due to the fact that there's infrastructural problems, the business models don't exactly work or fit. So you have to be one that's able to adapt, or have a manager on ground that's able to adapt using local knowledge to make sure that your business models, your business plans are able to be executed properly. Now, on saying all of this, at the end of the day, making sure that your business plans and your actual service or product is viable is clearly number one. There is a lot of competition. You might sit down and think, you know, these petty traders in Africa, what are they doing? Oh, to let you into a little secret, I was on a plane from London through to Nigeria, and a lot of the ladies who had shops were stocking up really for the end of summer, back to school trade that they're going to be embarking on. And they were talking about their friends and family that are in the diaspora, living in the UK, saying, oh, I don't know how you people live in Nigeria, I don't know how you people live in Africa, all the lack of facilities. And one of them was saying, gosh, I wish they really understood that we're not suffering at the moment at all. I have to wake up whenever I feel like it. I have 2 house helps within my home. I have 3 helps within my shop, and I travel to do my business whenever I need to. So there are gains, and there is also a little lifestyle that can be had when it works on the continent. So what we'll do is we'll have a break, and then we'll come back, and you can call us on the studio. The number will be up scrolling so that you know which numbers to dial in. Our guest will be coming in, and that's Mr. Afolabi Andu, who is the head of Visage PR company. He's an expert on doing business in Nigeria, and he's also the person that runs the Best of Nigeria Expo. So hold it right there, tune in, and stay with me. See you in a moment.
When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpower.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.litopal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.litopal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.litopal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.litopal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. And yes, doing business in Africa, the do's and the don'ts. And my guest is here now, is Mr. Afolabi Andu. You're welcome, sir.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, when it comes down to the issue of doing business in Africa, the number one person that came to my mind that would be best to speak to you is Mr. Andu. Now, for those people out there who don't know you, sir, please tell them who you are.
Well, my name, like you said, is Afolabi Andu, and I am a brand specialist as well as a public relations practitioner. I have been running my business in the United Kingdom for the better part of 30 years. I remember when I did start then, there were very few African businesses within the City of London or the London area. And it's amazing to see how the businesses have grown over time to a point where we are now a formidable force within the London and even the United Kingdom. So it's a great thing.
Fantastic. Now, you talk about doing business here in the UK 30 years, but this program today is all about the African continent.
Yes.
All eyes on Africa at the moment. So it's become attractive because of not just the resources, the wonderful people, of course, but the potential. What can you tell our viewers about who are thinking about doing business on the continent but are not so sure? What advice do you have for them?
Well, the reality is that you do have different categories of investors. Likewise, here in the United Kingdom, you have the small-scale businesses, you have the medium-sized businesses, and the large-scale investors. So it really has to do with a particular group of people that looking to target Africa as a way of doing business or investing. Using the word investment, I think it's a little bit broad because you find that there are people who just want to explore opportunities, largely just to trade. And in that respect, because of the opportunities, they would take on those gaps in the market within the African region. Now, of course, going out there to do business or invest, same thing, the principle has to be very, very well thought through.
Yes, indeed. Planning is king.
Absolutely.
So, for me now, many people think, okay, Africa, Africa. Even the Nigerian Prime Minister and many of the other senators were commenting in the last few weeks to the diasporans, come back home. Come and things are not as bad as you think. And as you said, you've got people who are doing minor trade, and then you have people who are doing the major investments in infrastructure, IT, power, and then you have just the ordinary SME person who wants to come back and maybe start something and let it grow organically. So what top 3 tips would you give the SME person who wants to go back as opposed to the big investor?
Well, before I do that, I think where I ended about the principal points. Africa, or if I want to focus, let me focus on an environment that I'm quite familiar with, and that's Nigeria.
Yes.
You know, Nigeria has tremendous opportunities. In fact, the sheer population alone is a sizable market, but we also have to take cognizance of the fact that we're not really targeting an affluent group of people. A very high percentage of people out there are still struggling. So in terms of disposable income, it's quite restrictive. But in saying that, the number do count in terms of the volume. You know, but to venture out there, there are steps that needs to be considered very seriously. First of all, because really most people that are looking to do business possibly might be involved in some form of gainful employment in the United Kingdom. And what they're looking to do really is to prospect. They want to prospect opportunities. And to prospect opportunities in a place like Nigeria, you need to be on ground. The question really is that do you have that, quality of time that you can spend to possibly about 3 months away from your mainstay here in the United Kingdom. So that needs to be carefully thought through. And the second aspect of it, in terms of structure, to set up a business in Nigeria, you obviously have to go through the registration process. Fortunately, these days, it has become a little bit more easier because you can do a lot of this online. And in fact, I believe in some cases, you can actually get it done within 24 hours. And they're looking to actually shorten that process. There is a body in Abuja called it's the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council. Well, they have a center which really is a place where not just your registration of your company, but anything you need to do as a prospective investor.
So what was that, the Nigerian Investment Council?
Promotion Council.
Promotion Council,
That's
Nigerian Investment Promotion Council. Okay, so that's really good. And the things that can be done online, people need to tap into that. Once you look online, you'll actually see that a lot of the registration processes are working perfectly fine, and you'll get a response within 14 days. So do explore.
Absolutely. It's very, very important. All you just need to do is to Google the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council, and you can find out about the center. It's available to everyone. or you can just email them and they'll respond.
That's brilliant.
And let me also add, in the same vein, the Corporate Affairs Commission, they are the hub. They really, that's what they do. But just like your company's house here, they set up that structure that makes it seamless today. So you can also visit their website and get as much information that will be of benefit to your access in setting up a business in Nigeria.
You know, as a lawyer, I get asked a lot of questions, and I was very, very happy to refer people to the website. You can check names that are already registered, you can check documents, people behind companies, and it's a really good tool, really, really good tool. And if you are of Nigerian origin and you hold a Nigerian ID and passport, then it's quite easy with an ID, passport picture and proof of your address to register your company. And following up with the registration documents can actually come across later. So if you have urgent transactions that need to be done and you need to actually have a registered corporate body in Nigeria, it can be done quite easily. So many of these people that are looking, as you say, have their, let me say, their 9-to-5 gig in London, but have these prospects thrown at them. And many a time, it might not be their specific field. Do you suggest that people go into things that they're more familiar with, especially at the fact that you said they should really be on ground if they can't delegate to good hands in Nigeria? So what's your recommendation? If some things come across that are just really good opportunities, and as Africans in general, we are not born hustlers, but when we see opportunities, we're ready to take that risk and that plunge. What do you suggest?
Well, it's business is a risk,
Yes.
and if you're strong enough and courageous enough, to venture, then why not take advantage of these
Yeah.
opportunities? But if I can also add, because of the fact that
We have a call. Let's see if we can take that. Hello, good evening. Thanks for calling in.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name?
My name is. Hello,
Yes.
my name is Bosede.
Okay, Bossade, what's your question, please?
Hello.
Yes, what's your question, please, Bossade?
Yes, I've got an issue because I did actually appreciate the program that is going on presently.
Good.
And the point is this, I did actually went to Nigeria
Yes.
a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And set up autistic schools.
Yes.
And I bought a land from Housing Corporation, not even knowing that the land is sold for me is within the waterway. Okay.
So did it flood?
Pardon?
Did you have flooding issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Drainage problem.
All right. So what is your question? Miss Bossade?
Hello.
Yeah. So what is the question that you'd like us to deal with?
Yeah, the question is, when we discover that the land that is sold to us, okay, that there is a lot of drainage problem there. So we went back to the Housing Corporation that did actually sold the land for us, and they said, well, that they will come around to come and sort out the problem, that we should keep on constructing. And to be sincere with you, we finished the construction, we finished everything, and we registered the school just for me to start admitting the children. And the issue of the drainage is out of hand entirely.
Yeah.
Then I went back to the government to go and complain, but they didn't do anything.
Okay,
So,
what I would say
now-
to you is, Miss Bossade, if you can call, well, there's an email address that will be on the screen. You can email in, and what I will do is try to help you answer some of your questions and what you can try to do and what representations you can make to the Housing Corporation in Nigeria. So thank you very much for calling in. Thank you. So as you can see, it's hard to do your due diligence in another country when you're based here. Anything to do with land purchasing, number one, should be in writing. Any business you do or business agreements you have should also be in writing. Obviously, the compliance, depending on the industry you're operating in, must also be met. Your compliance obligations within the jurisdiction you are, whichever country it is, must be met, such as a school registering with the necessary educational body. And it's sad that the situation we just had relayed, an autistic school, which is much needed in Nigeria, was not handled well because of the issue of drainage. Now, one of the things you must also take out is business insurance. Now, these things, land insurance, business insurance, two different things. So you must make sure that you have the right level of protection, whatever business you're doing. Now, before the call came in, we were talking about the registrations and some of the organizations people can go to.
Yeah. Well, I think more on the skill set. You know, I would advise very strongly that you stick with your core competence.
Yes.
You know, there's no question about it at all. The demand for quality services, not just in Nigeria, but the whole of Africa, is significant. So if you are a trained professional here with vast experience working within the British environment, you can be assured that in setting up a business in line with the area of your core competence will go a long way.
It's amazing when you think about things such as healthcare and clinics and then education. Yes, the core competences here and the experience that you have here can always lean well in Nigeria. I've known many surgeons here who've ended up running various different hospital chains and hospital groups in Nigeria, and those in the technical fields doing exceptionally well in exceptionally short periods. So in Nigeria as well, again, due to numbers, the fact that when they are here and they're trying to do their small SME self-registered business waiting for customers, but when they go out there with the necessary equipment and skill set, they are overrun with customers, and they're finding that they're training hands on deck to help them expand their business within a very short time.
And that's so true. And to add on that, you find that we have different groups here, clusters. Some women who have attained what will be seen as a retirement age in the UK. And they still feel the need to give back because they've built experience over the years. And the same thing applicable to men. I would advise that it might be useful for them to even take on some form of formal training of other, what could be seen as handiwork, artisan work. Not necessarily for them to go back and start doing those things, but they can become a trainer to train others.
Yes, we were promoting vocational skills, and we always do on this platform and on others, because sometimes it's well overlooked for some reason, part of our culture. And the growth in the desire for artisan work, whether it's beading, whether it's crocheting, whether it's even our ashioke, the desire for this handmade quality works has grown. And the thing is, when we teach vocational works, the business element should be taught alongside it. So currently in Nigeria, it's one of the things I'm doing. I'm promoting in the vocational training centers the fact that business studies should be taught alongside it. You teach somebody how to fish, yes, they have an income for life, but you teach them how to be a bit about business, then they go out and they own fleets rather than just a net. It's as simple as that. Same with hairdressing, same with fashion and design, same with even, let me say, aluminium. Once you teach a boy how to repair air conditioning systems, that's fine. But give him a business sense, he might think about growing a business, training others and expanding it. So yes, indeed, the vocational, the SME side of things in Nigeria has a real massive potential. And you were talking about the income per capita or the income per household in the country you're thinking about doing business in may be a factor that you have to look at, because it will then determine how you package your good or your service.
Yes.
And one of the things you're known for, sir, is branding. So what advice can you give to people about branding their product or service in the African markets?
Well, I think the starting point is to explain the discipline of branding. You know, we hear that word branding, brands and stuff. But what really is a brand? It's a combination of a number of things. You take the symbol, you take the design, the sign, it could even be a sign. But they are not really the brand. The brand constitutes the character, the quality of service, the strength of the personnel, all combined together. And over time, it now constitutes to what the business is known
Stands for or known for.
so it becomes a distinct outlook. So when we hear, for example, your firm, OBASEKI Solicitors, it automatically triggers, you can see the logo, and it is now also linked to the quality of service that is provided. And that is a brand.
Many of you may not know that I know Mr. Ofolabi Andu, and I almost gave birth to my second child after giving a speech at one of the Best of Nigeria events. My water broke as I came down from the podium. I was so, I would say in my mind I was panicked, but I was insistent on delivering my job, because I always deliver, no matter how busy I am. And then just getting down the stage and making sure nobody saw anything they didn't need to see. But it all ended up well. I ended up telling Mr. Andrew that I left quietly that day, had the baby, then called him next day. He said, "You left quietly." I said, "Oh, it's because I had to go and give birth." "What do you mean you went to go give birth?" But yes, the Best of Nigeria. I think many people don't realize that also networking in your new market. One of the things about Nigeria is there are a lot of Nigerians here that have connections back home. Many of those who have business interests also are here. And one of the places you can meet people is via networking. And I think it will be good for people to know some of the networking platforms where people can meet, just not even just to rub minds, to get business ideas, connections. If you let us know some of the ones that you may be aware of.
Well, I can only talk about myself and what we do, and that is what I've been doing for the better part of 30 years. Like I said, I started off with an organization called the Contact Club, so many years ago. And that's metamorphosed into the Nigerian British Business Forum today, of which you're a member. The idea behind the Nigerian British Business Forum is to help grow businesses in the UK and also expand for members who want to go out to Nigeria, help them to expand the businesses out there. And not just restricted to Nigerians, because we have
many others.
We have Caucasian members and stuff, on the bilateral side of things, where they can be brought into contact with, whether it's the public sector or private businesses that can partner with them with a view of doing great things out there. We are currently planning next Best of Nigeria Expo. We had the preliminary session in Nigeria. That was on the 14th of August, and the focus was on young entrepreneurs.
Young entrepreneurs.
Very,
Watch out, they are really, really exceptional.
I'm very particular about that group because they are our future.
Indeed.
And we must start to nurture them. We do have within the Nigerian British Business Forum, as you know, the young entrepreneur sector. And we have a projection for them for the next 30 years where we do plan that out of that group we would have 500 or plus in the Fortune 500 groupings. So
yes.
It's a strategic plan that we have in place. But back to the Best of Nigeria. That's coming up, towards the end of November and 1st of December.
So if people want to exhibit, attend, where can they get more information, or where can they register to do that?
They can go onto our website, and that's www.bestofnigeria.co.uk.
Okay, www.bestofnigeria.co.uk. Now back to the Africa, All Eyes on Africa. Now we have looked at Nigeria, and similarly, before you came in, I was talking to people about what is the attraction? Why would you want to do business in Africa? We've talked about the numbers, but should people put profit above passion? And I've asked this question to other business people who have sat down there, and it's just interesting to hear the responses. So do you continue with your passion, think, oh, I'm from that country, I've got to go back there because my uncle or my auntie is still there, or my grandparents are still there, I want them to see me doing well, I want to give back? Or do you actually sit down and think, actually, I want to do this because I want to make a profit, finish paying off for a new house in the various regional, one here and one in Paris and one in Los Angeles. I need it to make profit and put my kids through school. What should be the focus?
Well, there's nothing wrong with passion, and if we're talking about passion in what we do, that can also go a long way because
Indeed.
we're dedicated to it and we'll do it passionately. But passion can also be dangerous.
It can be blinding.
So I do take on, and I like what you said earlier on, even from the vocational training side of things, in integrating the business element to it. Very, very important. I can tell you that the prospective investor coming in from a different part of the United Kingdom, whether he's coming in from the States, would have done his market research, would have
Correct.
done the necessary work before they consider setting up. It's not really going to be driven by passion. They would be looking at the business aspect. Is it a viable proposition? And if it's not really working in terms of the numbers, they might just decide to jettison that opportunity.
Exactly.
So it's very, very important that we carry out the necessary due diligence. Get, if you can, could be a management consultant who would do the market research, develop a visibility study, starting with a synopsis, then a visibility study, just to be able to assess the viability of that particular business. And that is so crucial. Yes, the opportunities are there, but in that same manner, the opportunities you're looking at, a whole lot of other people are looking at.
Exactly.
So your SWOT analysis,
Competition.
and how have you addressed that? So it's so crucial that the business side of things must be carefully considered before embarking on, regardless of the individual's passion.
I'm always passionate about the law, about business, but it's not every business opportunity that I can run away with. I must say that definitely our culture means that we're always quick to do things. We want to see things done quickly without doing that due diligence. And again, as we heard from our caller who purchased a property but wasn't aware of the flooding potential within the area, you have to make sure that you take your time. It is a case of doing the steps before you start running. It really, really is a case of doing that. So please, we're going to take a short break. Again, you can call in. The number is on the screen. We're here to answer your questions. I do want to make sure that you are aware of the fact that Mr. Andu has the full 30 years experience, has connections and opportunities, and when we come back we're going to be looking at some of the additional things that you should be doing if you are trying to push your brand or your service onto the continent of Africa. So see you in just a moment.
When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpower.com.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Now, again, all eyes on Africa. What do you think about what they're considering or terming the Chinese invasion? What's your let me say, what's your opinion on it?
It's a very interesting one, very interesting subject. You know, I'm being very careful not to trail on the political pathway.
Yes, we're not going to be political. We'll
Okay.
just be real.
Okay. Now, China, they're not taking prisoners. They're not taking prisoners. And that's not restricted to Africa.
It's actually a global move, isn't it?
It's a global intervention.
I'm glad you said that because that's what I was going to say. Anyway, continue.
Really
yes.
is. If we look in history and understand the patterns of how things have panned out over time, what you'll find is that the Chinese community, largely a communist community and bordered on socialism, they were focusing more on strengthening their people by providing for their people, taking care of their people, the basic needs of their people. But they were largely poor in terms of the critical mass. But they had a strategy in place. The moment America gave them that opportunity to be members of WTO, that was when it all really opened up for China, because China became the industrial base for the world. It was at the time where developed economies were no longer embarking on full-scale industry.
Yes.
I remember in the late 70s, I'm sure you probably might have heard, of the OBASEKI.
I was just born then. Calm down.
You know, the miners' strike.
The miners' strike, yes.
For the United Kingdom, Britain, that was when the decline started in terms of industry.
Industry, yes.
And they now moved into the service sector when Margaret Thatcher came into power. I remember Neil Kinnock would refer to Margaret Thatcher as a woman that has built a money-based economy. And of course, that was what translated into the United Kingdom becoming the financial capital, literally, of the world. But on all this, China was focusing on being the industrial base for the world.
Being the person, well, let me say the corner shop for the rest of the world, where you'll come and get all your things that you need to run your day-to-day. They were concentrating on making sure they had all the resources.
Absolutely. So they now focused on building a formidable infrastructure, whether it was on the road networks for value chain, whether it was in terms of the actual physical industries. They just focused on that. It wasn't so much for their own consumption. It was to support the world's
consumption,
development.
Need,
so,
the world's need.
Absolutely. So you take America as an example in terms of its numbers and the incredible appetite for consumable items. America's appetite is insatiable. They cannot have enough. And China realized that and built on that particular desire. So very, very cheap products for the companies in America, and for them, all about capitalism. So they were making loads and loads of money within the American market. And with this, China was developing a strategy, a medium to long-term strategy. Now, what we see playing out today,
in Africa,
it's not so much a situation of some guy waking up and thinking impulsively that there is an opportunity in Africa. Far from it, far from it. They've taken on the world, and Africa is literally a walkover, because Africa does not have there, as would be described, any form of sustainable economic plan. There is no developmental plan that is practical for the growth of Africa. And that's evident. And you take Nigeria as an example, Nigeria being described as the giant of Africa in terms of our size, in terms of our resource base and all that. So what has happened here is that China had made loads of money, because what you've been doing is that you've been buying from China.
Yes, we have to go to the shop. It's the main shop. We know everything is there. So we go there and we buy. And we have not been making our own.
You've been buying from China.
We've not been making our own. We haven't
happened.
put any investment into making our own. So not only do we buy from them, they've said, hey, you're buying from us. We might as well come and be supplying it from where you are.
Exactly.
We might as well own it where you are, because you've got the resources develop it where you are and sell it back to you
That's it.
where you are.
Very simply.
It's as simple
Very
as
simple.
that.
So
Yes.
Africa is a walkover. What is even happening right now in terms of the trade war between America and China, you would find that America would back down.
You know, I was looking at the tariffs that were being levied today between America and China. Because I know we're talking about doing business and all eyes on Africa, but this all relates.
It's global.
It all relates because when you think about the tariffs that China has now put on goods coming out from America to China, it's in the billions. And I'm not sure whether Donald Trump was really doing his sums properly when he thought about putting the tariffs on Chinese goods. So poor Americans now, when they get their electronical gadgets, some shops are actually saying that it may go up a third for many Americans. And where they've had their stable economy for such a while, post-Obama, who put things in place, it's going to be a bit of a change on the high street for Americans. And I'm not sure if they realize how bitter the pill is they're set to swallow. But moving away from that and on back to Africa, many people feel that it's one of the reasons why we must go back, or people in the diaspora, people with connections with the continent, or people with the passion for Africa need to actually step in, because you realize that us failing to appreciate what is on the continent means that people like China, like Indian investment companies have come in and, let me say, not just purchased but grown roots. I've had a young lady that's worked in my office. She's a third to fourth generation Indian that lives in Kano. And when I was saying to her, well, at the end of your degree, are you going to go back to India? She goes, no, I have no connection with India. I'm from Kano in Nigeria. So you realize that, again, Nigeria in itself, the demographic in the next 2 generations is going to be totally changed. So it's a factor that we think about and say, okay, even Nigeria is going to feel the effect of globalization. Do you think that we have to jump on that bandwagon now if we're going to have something that's going to be successful in the next generations? Is now the time to make a move, or do we move after the elections?
There would always be elections.
Exactly. Governments will come and go.
Every 4 years.
Governments will come and go. Whichever country you're in, by the way. Definitely governments will come and go. That's true.
But let me drop back slightly and bring some appreciation here. And that's still on the China ideological moves. What you find is that the average Chinese does not see it as his own private business. He's subject to the state of China.
That's true. There is a very different business ethos, if we say it that way, when it comes down to Chinese doing business in other territories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So he's going out there on behalf of the state of China. And what the state of China has done is to back him up fully. So he has the necessary economic support to muster and do as he wills within that market environment.
Yeah.
Now, in the context of the average African, well, if we could, let me restrict it to an environment that I understand very well, that's Nigeria. In the diaspora alone, we've done our research. Here in the United Kingdom, taken as an example, we're worth 57 billion pounds.
Nigerians in the UK were 57
in the United
billion
Kingdom.
pounds.
In the United Kingdom. They can go onto our website, Nigerian British Business Forum.com, under Nigerian UK sub-economy. You'd find it there. But the challenge, very simply, is that we do not have any form of structured support.
Network.
We don't have that. We operate in complete and total divergence. So you find the average Nigerian business person here, and there are many businesses, but to rally together as one main focal force would always present a lot of challenges. And I've seen this over the years. And I guess that not until we have that understanding that it's about the business, everything has got to be secondary. So what is the common interest is the economic aspect of things.
Not the personality clashes.
It wouldn't work.
Not the individual desires.
It would never work. You wouldn't, as a community, when you continue to consider personal issues, you will never grow your community economically. The reason why Britain was able to take on the world when it did was that it had a focus. They had a lot of issues, internal issues,
Yes.
but their focus was singular. We're taking on the world.
Exactly.
And that is exactly what's going on in China today.
Well, we need to have some of that ethos in Africa. Stronger together. We will be stronger together. And working with passion, but with profits at the forefront of our minds. So doing business in Africa, number one, do your research. You've heard it. Go to the embassies, join networking groups, join chambers of commerce. Get that essential research down. Number two, have a plan. You can't leave your day job here to go and do a gig that you're not certain about. Make sure that you have the budget and the plan to make sure it works and actually is successful. And then it's about making sure your branding is strong and that you push forward, have that market penetration ability to make sure that you stand amongst the competition. And then growth, making sure that you are clear about you reinvesting into your business, improving on the brand, improving on the services so that you do well. Thank you for joining us this week. It's all eyes on Africa, as you know. And next week, we hope to be going back to the issues of the service industry. For those of you especially working in the NHS, I have a special guest coming on to speak to you about your career progression and women in leadership. We need to see more of you out there. It's one of the things that we're going to be talking about in the few coming weeks. So I'd like to thank my guest today. Thank you so much, Mr. Andu. And remember, Best of Nigeria coming up November. Go to the website www.bestofnigeria.co.uk. Find out about who's going to be exhibiting, how you can be involved, how you can meet some of the brands that you idolize, see how they've done what they've done. Many people will be there to talk to you because we all want to see you succeed. Thanks again. See you next week. And remember, be good. And if you can't be good, be careful. Take care. Bye-bye.
When you're looking for
So-
a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. OBASEKI Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.litopal.com.